Good afternoon, folks. My name is Dave Cafaro, and I'm excited to be here with you today for the Members Trust Company event. My company is the Strategic Advisory Consulting Group, and I consider myself kind of an 80-20 person. I spent 80% of my career in the wealth management business as a practitioner, as a business leader, and I've spent 20% of my time as a consultant. My experience from both perspectives, both roles has given me tons of learnings. And what I want to focus on today is so powerful, but so very simple. So here it is. Firms are only successful with their clients when their advisors are successful with clients. Let me repeat that. Firms are only successful with clients when their advisors are successful with clients. Here's why this is so important. Wealth and investment management firms spend millions of dollars every year on consultants, on advisors, asking a really simple question. How can we grow our business? And that leads to things like mergers and acquisitions, big technology investments, things like that. But it always boils down to one thing. Here it is. Enable advisors, financial advisors, fiduciary advisors, portfolio managers to be more successful with the clients that they serve, and the institution will become more successful. So our exclusive focus in our time together today is on you, on how we help you become as successful as you can possibly be in this business. So our objective together today is to share actionable business development and relationship management ideas for advisors and affiliated agents. So plan on taking notes. I've got a lot to share with you. And let's get right to the heart of the matter, and that is clients. So I want to start with talking about what we know about affluent clients. And there's a lot that we know. And the first thing is that across all the country, wherever it is, there is a growing cultural, generational, and gender diversity that we have to be attuned to as advisors. Now, for advisors, this means knowing your audience, knowing them really well, demonstrating empathy and understanding about where the client's coming from, being attuned to factors that shaped their views and their visions, the things that are important to them, all of their perspectives. Unequivocally, tech orientation is one of those things that is an obvious distinction, but that's not the only one. So, for instance, there are differences on things like investment preferences. Do we like blue chip stocks or do we like new brands? Risk appetites, and the importance of an institution's social responsibility, both for the firm and the products that they make available. Now, there are also some important similarities across generations and cultures and genders, but it's important that we sort of recognize both what's similar and what's unique. On the similarity front, we know from a lot of research that expectations for advice, engagement, individualization of advice matters a lot. So I want to share with you a recent study by J.D. Powers that speaks specifically to the advice element. J.D. Powers found that 78% of US consumers want financial advice, right? So more than 3/4 want the advice. But here's the other side of that coin. A CNBC poll, this is also very recent, showed that 83% are not able to get the advice that they need. Now, there's also a new study on financial influencers. It came out just recently. That study found that 70% of respondents to their survey feel that professional financial advisors, folks like you, are trustworthy. Only 16% of respondents said they're not trustworthy. So that's good news. 69% say that financial institutions are trustworthy versus 20% that are not, say that they're not trustworthy. And that's a nice uptick from where it's been over the past couple of years. But here's something that's really interesting. Across all demographics, people said that social media platforms are the least trustworthy sources of financial advice. Only 21% of respondents said social media platforms are trustworthy. versus 65% who said they're not trustworthy at all. So as a credit union facing advisor, you're in a really good place to earn relevance. And that means being attuned to what creates value, right? But you have to be clear on what your personal value proposition is and the value proposition of your firm. We're going to talk about that a little bit more, but you have to be able to answer the question, why work with you? What's the benefit of working with you and with your firm? Now, we also know that affluent clients have broad access to products, to services, to fintech, and more every day. So with this backdrop, what we know about affluent clients, the next thing we have to move into is what affluent clients expect from their advisors. And here's where it gets really interesting. They expect that we know them. That's not a surprise, but we have to know them deeply. We have to go beyond their balance sheet, beyond their portfolio, beyond the income statement, and understand their future, their feelings, their family dynamics, what matters to them in their financial life, who they are, and what they do in their financial lives. They want us to understand them and what matters most to them in their financial lives. We don't know what we don't know, but they don't know either, meaning that it's essential for us to know their financial lives, who they are, what matters to them financially, and what they want to accomplish, as well as their concerns and their views and their values. All of that comes into play. We cannot fall into the old school trap of looking at clients through a segmentation lens. And I'm sure a lot of you have heard those conversations before. We treat clients that have $1 million a certain way. Somebody who's got 5 gets a different treatment. That doesn't work anymore. Here's why. We can't fall into the trap of thinking that everybody that's got a $5 million net worth or $3 million in investable assets has similar views or values or risk appetites or even a preferred engagement approach. We have to understand what's unique to the individual, what drives them, what matters to them. And we have to be able to anticipate needs. So think of it this way. You are the subject matter expert in a client's financial life. You're the expert. You're the one who knows more than most people know in your area. So you have economies of experience. You have economies of knowledge. What's extraordinary in the financial life of many of your clients is ordinary for you. And I'll share an example or story that I think is relevant here. A good friend of mine a few years ago discovered that she had kidney cancer. It was a very scary thing. It was one of the most difficult experiences in her whole life. She went to the Stanford Medical Center and found a doctor that specializes in kidney problems. That's all that he does. Every day, all the time, he focuses on kidney-related problems and kidney cancers. So after going through the meeting and the evaluation and so forth, my friend obviously looked a little concerned, and the doctor said, listen, I know this is scary. I know this is uncomfortable, but what I want you to know is I do this all the time, every day. I know for you, this is a once in a lifetime thing, but for me, it's Tuesday. So the message that I got from that is, in our business, the same thing applies. What's extraordinary in the life of the client, in their financial life, is ordinary to you. So being able to anticipate needs using your economies of knowledge, your economies of experience, your expertise makes you more valuable. And that's part of what people expect from their advisors. They expect you to use your X-ray vision to see things that they can't see, to help anticipate needs. And I had an experience a few years ago where I went with the team that I worked with on a call in Florida. And we met with a couple and we thought we were going for a portfolio review. As it turned out, it turned into something much more meaningful. So in the course of just kind of the niceties and getting to know the couple that we were meeting with, the advisor said, I understand your daughter's getting married, and that's really exciting. I'm so happy for you. How are you feeling? And both the husband and wife said, well, we're excited about it. She's marrying a very nice young man. We're excited to have him come into the family. The advisor paused for a minute, and recognized that this family owns a company. It's an online women's clothing firm. And the daughter is the chief digital officer for the firm. She owns a third of the company. Husband and wife own 2/3, the daughter owns a third. So the advisor very astutely said, how do you feel about your new son-in-law owning 1/6 of the company? And there was a pause. And then the husband said, well, he's a great guy. We really care about him. We think he's going to be a great part of our family. And then there was another pause. And that led to both the husband and wife saying, you know, it might be a really good idea for us to review our estate plan. Can you help us with that? Now, the power in that, the advisor's intent was only to say, something's changing in your life. How does it affect your financial life? That was incredibly powerful. Part of our job, part of the way we earn value, earn relevance with clients, is to help them see beyond their line of sight. That led to a really meaningful estate plan review. And of course, the advisor did not change the estate plan, but worked with their professional advisors to lead to an update in the estate plan. That is earning relevance, and that's what clients expect from their advisors. Very powerful. Human lives are in perpetual motion. We have to recognize that when people's personal lives change, their financial lives change. People get married, people get divorced, people have children, people buy companies, sell companies, move. All of those things, changes in the personal life, affect changes in the financial life. And so since clients' financial lives are always in motion, extraordinary advisors are able to interpret clients' personal life changes and the impact those things have in their financial lives. We also have to deliver. Clients always expect us to deliver the client experience they anticipate. When we deliver, they're happy. When we don't, we lose relationships. So let's go from what they expect into what they assume. And this is really important because sometimes we can fall into the perception that these are the things that make a difference, but in fact, they don't. This is base level. This is the ante to be in the game. And these are things that the clients assume. They assume that your products are going to be comparable to every other product in the market. Products can tend to be commoditized. They know that. But they expect yours are going to be as good as others that they can get elsewhere. They expect performance. They expect that your investment performance is going to be a par with others. You don't have to be top decile, but they expect that your performance is going to be comparable to others. It's going to be reasonable, and it's going to be aligned to their investment objectives. They expect fair, reasonable, understandable pricing and value for the pricing. And they expect proficiency. They expect you as the subject matter specialist to be good at what you do, to know what you're doing. You don't have to know all the answers, and clients don't expect that. But you have to be able to ask your colleagues, find the answers if you don't have them. That is an assumption. And finally, they expect that you have a perspective in mind, and it is their perspective that matters the most. What you think is relevant, what they think matters the most. And as fiduciaries, we have to hold the client's interests ahead of our own. That means being clear about their perspectives, their objectives, their values, and their views. So I've got a series of these self-checks, and since we're doing this virtually, I can't hear what you're saying, but I want you to think through these questions, your answers, and then I'll share some thoughts. So the first one is, 1 year from today, you think that client expectations of advisors will be much greater than they are today, meaning in terms of advice, engagement, service level expectations, technology, products, or you think, maybe a little bit greater, or you think it'll be about the same as today, or you think expectations will be lower than today. Well, you can probably guess that the most common response here is people anticipate that clients are going to have much greater expectations of their advisors tomorrow than they do today. And that means in terms of advice, engagement, service level, all of those things. What that means is what you do today in terms of refreshing your engagement approach proactively positions you to deliver what clients expect today and tomorrow. Your actions today create your outcomes for tomorrow. And that matters a lot when you think about growing your business. So how do we engage with clients to earn relevance? Let's talk a little bit about this. And the first thing that we focus on is to earn, learn, analyze, and advise. And what I mean by that is we have to earn trust first and foremost. This is a business based on trust. If you don't have trust, you don't have a relationship. You also have to earn the right to advise. That means that you demonstrate your acumen. It doesn't mean that you have to show yourself as the smartest person in the room, but it does show that you know how to engage with the client, how to ask them good, meaningful questions, and how to understand what matters to them in their financial lives, and then match advice that's individualized to them, that's meaningful to them, to help advance the relationship. And when we're able to do that, we're able to earn and sustain relevance when clients' needs are uncovered and anticipated. We also have to demonstrate emotional intelligence. Now, this is something that we talk about a lot, not only in the financial services industry, but kind of across the board. And again, this becomes just the ante to be in the game. You've got to demonstrate that understanding, that emotional intelligence to understand what's going on in clients' financial life. Here's why this matters so much. Think of how emotional all aspects of someone's financial lives are, right? So their investments, their deposits, their loans, there are lots of feelings attached to that. And in some cases, the feelings are fear or concern. There's a study that showed that 53% of adults in America say that just thinking about their financial situation makes them anxious. Just thinking about it, not doing anything, just thinking about it makes them anxious. It makes me anxious just thinking about them, thinking about it. And 44% of Americans say that discussing their financial life is stressful for them. Emotional intelligence is essential for an extraordinary advisor. We have to put our own feelings aside and read where the client's coming from, knowing what an emotional subject a financial life is. And we have to adapt and refine and anticipate where the client's going and then align. Again, clients' financial lives are always in motion because their personal lives are always in motion. That means we have to be adaptive advisors. The way that we served them when we brought in the relationship may not work today because their lives have changed. So we've got to be continually assessing what's going on in their financial lives, where they are, and how we can best engage with them, be meaningful, be relevant to them. That matters a lot. That's part of why they choose you. They know what they get when they choose you. I want to focus now on how clients choose who they work with. And this is really an interesting study. So the Spectrum Group just put this out fairly recently. Here's what they found. When affluent clients are looking for a new advisor, 58% of them choose based on the firm. 42% of them choose based on the advisor. But this is not true across all demographics. Here's where it gets even more fun and interesting. The younger the client, the more heavily they tilt towards the firm. The older the client, the more likely they are to tilt toward the advisor. So let me break this down a little bit. Millennials, 67% choose based on the firm, 67%. 10% less for baby boomers, 57% of baby boomers choose the firm, and silent generation, it's 55%. On the other hand, 33% of millennials choose based on the advisor, 43% of boomers and 45% of the silent generation choose based on the advisor. Now, here's where it comes into actual practice. What this tells us is that prospective clients care both about you as the advisor and about the firm. So being clear and articulating your value proposition, yours personally and the firm's, matters a lot. So when we think about personal value proposition, I recommend that it starts with you as the advisor, that you become very clear about your value proposition, answering the question, why you? Why should I choose you as my advisor? And why would I choose your firm? Now, I need to know, if I'm looking for an advisor, how are you going to earn and sustain relevance with me? Relevance meaning pertinence, meaningfulness in my financial life, importance in my financial life. How are you going to do it? And the answer cannot be product. It cannot be performance. It can't be pricing, and it can't be your job title. That's not what gets you there. You can't say, well, I'm an investment manager, I'm a financial advisor, I'm a fiduciary advisor. That doesn't do it because, frankly, most clients don't really know what that means. It's important to us, but they don't really know what it means. So your value proposition could be something simple. And by the way, I'm not suggesting this is the one you use, but it could be something as simple as, I help my clients bring their financial plans to life. Now, that simple statement has a whole lot more underneath it. There's a lot of depth under that, because then I could explain exactly how I help my clients bring their financial plans to life. I start out by talking to them about what their plans are. And in some cases, I find my clients don't even have a clearly defined plan, so I help them develop the plan. And then the way I help them bring the plan to life is by finding the right way to get to where they want to go from where they are today. That's an example of a value proposition. It has to be meaningful to you in order for you to be able to articulate to the client and have it be meaningful to them. But you must start with yourself and be able to articulate why choose you. This is a competitive business. And when you can answer the question, why choose you, it makes it so much better for you when you're able to articulate it to the client. So let's talk about relevance to clients. I've used that term a few times, and my new book called Leading from Zero is all about the importance of earning and sustaining relevance with clients and with other stakeholders. And again, relevance means pertinence. It's meaningfulness. It's importance to clients. Here's an important connection. Revenue follows relevance. If you are irrelevant to your client, you will not generate revenue from the relationship because the relationship will leave. You have to earn and sustain relevance with the client. Now, when you think of relevance, it isn't a one and done thing. It's something that you have to earn and re-earn. It has to be continually re-earned. What you did for me yesterday was great. What you do today matters, but tomorrow, I may not remember it so much. And think about it in your own life. The firms that you do business with, the people you do business with, and why you keep going back. It's because they're relevant in your life. I think in my life, separate from the financial part of my life, Amazon. Amazon is relevant. I ran out of coffee this morning. I went to my orders. I reordered coffee. It was here this afternoon. That is important to me. It's not all about coffee, but it is important in terms of them earning and sustaining relevance. If I ordered coffee and it didn't get here for 2 weeks, relevance would decay. It has to be earned and re-earned regularly. It does have a finite shelf life. So when we think about traditional segmentation, I want you to connect the dots between relevance and the way we think about clients. And back to the old school approach to segmentation where we thought about just wealth levels only. In terms of earning relevance, net worth is irrelevant. It does not cause engagement between the advisor and the client. It doesn't equate to an engaging experience. that model is losing relevance. It has to be all about the client and how we engage with them to be meaningful to them. And meaningfulness is going to vary based on who we're talking to. If you have 3 clients, each of whom has $3 million, but they have very different views on what success looks like in managing their portfolio. Just assuming that because they all have $3 million, they all have similar risk tolerances, risk appetites, expectations would be wrong and would cause you to fail to deliver and earn relevance to those clients. So the client determines how, when, and where the connection takes place. It's up to them, the way they want to engage. It's on us to determine how we understand the way they want to engage. We have to ask them, we have to understand. And we have to also recognize that even with all the conversation around technology and tools and all the cool things that are available in the fintech space today, and your firm probably uses some of them, that's only part of the story. There's so much more to the story, which is always based on individualizing an experience for the client. But how do we get there? How do we know how to individualize an experience for the client? Well, the advisor has to initiate. You have to be the one who's initiating proactive outreach to the client. Answering the phone, answering a text, responding to an email, you don't get any credit for that. On the other hand, in my entire experience in the wealth management business, as a consultant, as an advisor, leading a large wealth business, never once have I heard of a client who left the firm because the advisor reached out too frequently. If you're oversaturating outreach, the client will let you know, but they're not going to leave because of that. On the other hand, clients that don't feel loved, they don't feel valued, that haven't experienced relevance, those are the ones that leave. Now, I saw some really interesting research just last week, hot off the press, about wealth management firms. This is primarily trust departments and their experience in 2020. The most extraordinary year in terms of markets and outlook and the pandemic and everything that went along with it. And guess what happened? It was the year that across the industry, client retention was the highest that it's been as far back as we can tell. Why do you think that was? People spent more time reaching out to clients, more proactive calls, more proactive engagement. So there's a great storyline here which says, now that we're moving past COVID in most places, how do we sustain that level of proactive advisor-driven outreach so we experience greater retention, more introductions by our existing clients, greater satisfaction and loyalty? That's part of the way that we earn and sustain relevance with clients. So some questions of relevance. How do you define relevance with your clients? How do you earn and sustain relevance with your clients? I want you to just think about that for a few minutes. How do you make sure that you're meaningful in their financial lives? How do you know where you stand? How do you know how meaningful you are to them? How are your clients' financial lives different today than they were 2 years ago? Here's the why behind this question. If you understand how their financial lives are changing, you understand how you have to adapt your approach to run parallel to them, where they are, where they're going, and what they will need from you going forward. What do you need to do to earn relevance in your clients' financial lives tomorrow? Now, you can't know what tomorrow is going to look like, but you can follow the trends. And trends are always changing. It's changing at the individual family level. It's changing across the industry. So by being anticipatory and saying, okay, they were happy with our relationship today. Tomorrow, what do I need to do in order to earn and sustain relevance with them tomorrow? So here's another self-check. Over the next year, I expect to generate most of my new clients from direct outreach to qualified prospects. That's me reaching out, engaging with people that I think might qualify and might be interested. Through centers of influence, the attorneys, the CPAs, the yacht brokers, the whomever else you look to as centers of influence. Referrals from existing clients. One of the best ways to generate referrals is by having clients that find the experience to be relevant. Introductions from partners within the firm. And prospects contacting the firm. So in other words, reactive experiences. Now, with this self-check, the real takeaway is, what role does earning and sustaining relevance have with where my new business will come from over the next year? And here's what I mean by that. If you think about each of these, particularly the way that centers of influence or existing clients will think of you, or people coming to you because of your reputation, earning and sustaining relevance is one of the keys. The more people you have that are engaged, the more net promoters, the people who say, yes, I would refer you to my family and friends and coworkers, the more likely it is that you're going to be able to generate new business from all of these sources. So with that in mind, we know we have to dig deeper in order to understand what matters to our clients, to earn and sustain relevance with them. And sometimes we focus just on the facts. Now, there's a classic TV show that was called Dragnet, and the lead character, this guy on your screen, was a fellow named Joe Friday. He was a detective, and he was known for saying, just give me the facts. I don't want any editorializing, no hypothesizing, just the facts, ma'am, just the facts, sir, nothing more than that. For a lot of us, they're in this business. We were raised being trained to just get the facts. All of the stuff that goes on the account opening application or the know your client documentation, just the facts. The problem with the facts only, with just getting the facts, is it only tells part of the story. Now, we can look at the facts and get one impression, like in this picture, where evidence suggests that the Pisa Tower is standing straight and the rest of the world is at an angle. The rest of the world is leaning. But then we go deeper and we get a clearer picture and our understanding grows. And this is true in dealing with affluent clients. So how do we get beyond the facts? How do we get deeper than just the facts? Well, it comes from mastering the art of inquiry. Every client has a story to tell. Everybody has a story to tell. The more we know about their story and how it shapes their financial life, the more relevant we can be as advisors. We learn more through mastering the art of inquiry by asking good, relevant, and meaningful questions that are grounded in authentic curiosity. Now, this has to be real. We've got to be authentic about it. We've truly got to be curious about what matters to them, about what's important. Just wondering about them. Tell me about you. Tell me about your family. Tell me about your financial life. Those kinds of things that are authentic, that gets us a long way. That wanting to know, wanting to understand before you go out and you offer something. It reminds me of a story. I have a daughter that lives in New York, and a couple of summers ago, one of her coworkers was asked to dog sit for a friend. This friend was going on vacation, and they asked her to stay at their apartment and take care of their dog. The dog was a little older, so they didn't want to leave him in a kennel. Family goes on vacation. My daughter's friend is there, and she gets up in the morning, and the dog has died while the family's on vacation. So she calls the family and says, oh my gosh, I feel so bad. The dog died during the night. I don't know what to do. The couple said, listen, don't worry. We kind of thought something like this might happen. All you need to do is get the dog to the vet. She'll know what to do. Now, this is New York. And my daughter's friend said, yeah, okay, I'll take care of it. Then as she sort of let it sink in, she's saying, hold on a second. This is a golden retriever. It's a big dog. I don't know how I'm going to get this dog from here in this apartment to the vet. So she thinks about it for a little while. Maybe I'll take an Uber. No, cab, not such a good idea. She comes to the conclusion that the best path is to empty out her roller suitcase, get the dog in the suitcase, roll her way to the subway, and she'll be fine because she'll be able to get to the vet. Well, she gets the dog in the suitcase, manages her way to the train station, gets on the subway, and sits at the very middle at the door and is holding on to the wheelie just so it wouldn't roll away. They come to a stop, and a guy comes up and grabs the roller suitcase out of her hand and steals it and runs out of the car before she can even react. And then the doors close. And she looks out and sees this guy running off with the suitcase, with the dog. So that thief just grabbed for something, having no idea what he was going to get. He did not have authentic curiosity about what he was grabbing. On the other hand, authentic curiosity leads us to ask really good questions. By the way, I never heard what happened to the dog. I've asked my daughter a few times and her coworker doesn't know. But curiosity leads to really good questions. And meaningful questions help us in the process of discovery, of learning, of understanding, and really getting to know our relationship, our client, beyond just the facts. So let's talk a little bit more about curiosity, because it's such an important topic. What exactly do we mean when we're talking about curiosity? Well, it's a desire to know and to learn and to understand. It fuels engagement. When you're curious, when you ask people good questions, it causes them to engage with you, especially if you're asking them questions about themselves. It uncovers interests, concerns, what's meaningful in their lives. And it's powerful when it's linked to listening, so really hearing, and then activating, doing something about what you hear. This is a quote from Brian Grazer. He is the movie and TV producer. He's a partner with Ron Howard, and I'm sure you've seen movies or TV shows that he's produced. He says, curiosity allows the possibility that the way we're doing things now isn't the only way or even the best way. Now, Brian put out a book a few years ago that's called Curious Mind, The Secret to a Bigger Life. And I'm going to share a couple of sentences from the book. Curiosity has literally been the key to my success. I started having curiosity conversations early in my career. At first, these conversations were just inside of the business, but it's not just show business people who are willing to talk about themselves and their work. Everyone is. I use curiosity to help me be outgoing. I use it to power my self-confidence. And by the way, who doesn't need more self-confidence? I know I do. As soon as I realized the power of curiosity to make my work life better, I consciously worked on making it part of my routine. I made it a habit. And the biggest question of all for me is, what's your story? Now, that's a very powerful message for advisors. What's your story? So, what is an effective inquiry approach? We're talking about curiosity, about inquiry, mastering the art of inquiry. So let's talk a little bit about that. Inquiry is discovery. It's a process through which we learn about a client in the way that's essential to offering meaningful advice. And advice is really part of how we distinguish ourselves. Consider what we know as the prudent investor rule. It says, all things considered, what would a prudent investor do in this set of circumstances, in the current economy, in the tax environment, where the markets are going, and things like that? Inquiry is how we know what all the things are that we need to consider. And it means that as our inquiry acumen grows from demonstrating comfort and asking meaningful and relevant questions, that we're able to move forward in a natural conversational manner, empathetically, even with difficult topics. Now, I did a study for a firm a few years ago on the topic of wealth transfer. And they wanted to find out what their clients wanted to talk about, or even if they were interested in discussing wealth transfer, estate planning, what you do, what happens in your financial life when you pass away. So we put together a question that said, would you be interested in having one of our advisors speak with you about your wealth transfer plans? And being the wonderful consultant I am, I thought 10% response would be fantastic. If 10% of the people that we surveyed said, I'd like to have that conversation, we'd be doing great. Well, we gathered the responses and 60% said, I'd like to have a conversation about my wealth transfer plans. I was shocked. The firm was shocked. 60% of people don't agree on anything, but they did agree on this topic. I bring that up because it is a difficult topic. It's not the easiest thing to talk about. Yet, as professional advisors, you are the subject matter experts. And the more you can talk about difficult topics in a natural, conversational, and empathetic manner, the better off you'll be and the more effective you'll be as an advisor. And let the responses that you get from your inquiry approach guide subsequent questions. Somebody tells you something, they're feeding you a breadcrumb trail, and you're following the breadcrumbs as you learn more, as you continue with your inquiry approach. So now some steps to mastering the art of inquiry. We start with recognizing how curiosity creates a pathway. All that it does, that curiosity, that inquiry, creates a pathway to build a relationship. Build a repertoire of open-ended, purposeful questions that work for you. This is probably the most important step. These are the questions that are most meaningful to you, that you're the most comfortable with, to help sort of get things going, prime the pump, if you will. Frame questions around points of curiosity, the things you're really interested in. And listen for invitations for follow-on questions. If somebody says, well, you know, in my first company, I focused a lot on the public markets, but then when I sold that company and I started the one that I'm in right now, I became a lot less interested. Oh, really? Tell me about your first company. What was it? How did that go? What caused you to sell it? What caused you to move on to this company? Those kinds of things. Those are the invitations for follow-ons. And develop confidence in diplomatically asking why questions. Well, why did you decide to sell the company? What was behind that? What led you to that point? That stimulates more dialogue. So those are steps towards mastering the art of inquiry. Let's just quickly recap how we engage. And this is a summary of some of the points that I've just touched on, but I want to recap them because I think that's noteworthy. First of all, curiosity. Be authentically curious. Let that guide you through inquiry. Let inquiry deepen your understanding of who you're working with, what matters to them in their financial life, how you can be of the most value to them, how you can earn relevance to them. And that leads to deeper relationships. And folks, this is a relationship business. That's where you as advisors, financial advisors, fiduciary advisors, portfolio managers, you matter deeply. You create those deep relationships. And retention and expansion of relationships and referrals all are related to the way that we engage. So that leads to our approach to developing new business and selling value. So what is selling value all about? Well, there's a lot of research in the investment space, in the RIA space, and also in the wealth management space that tells us selling price doesn't work, especially trying to sell cheap. That doesn't work. Now, I want to be clear. That doesn't mean that you never have a client talk to you about fees and say, oh my gosh, your fees are so high. That's not what that means. This means you have to be able to understand and explain exactly the value that you provide. So selling price does not generate more business. A great RIA study showed that advisors who lowered their fees to get more business actually got less new business than those advisors who didn't lower their fees and who were able to explain what the client got for the fees. Makes sense. You know what you're getting. You know what you're buying. Investment performance. I've run into advisors over the years who want to sell investment performance. Oh my gosh, look what we did last quarter. That is never a good way to sell. It is uncorrelated to your value. Think about it. Advisors add as much value in down markets as they do in up markets, perhaps even more. Many advisors grew their business significantly during the 2008 financial crisis because they were there. They were engaged. They were reaching out. They were listening. They were a shoulder to cry on. They were able to say, we're going to get through this. And they were able to help clients redefine what their financial goals were. So the client experience is not related to investment performance. And products are commoditized, right? So you can't sell the product. That's not what sells. So what's left? Well, think about it. What's left if price isn't it, products aren't it, investment performance isn't it? It's you. It's the value that you provide through the client experience, through relationship onboarding, through ongoing day-to-day support, through engagement of the team, through proactive relationship reviews, through responsiveness, through advice, through solution suggestions, through information sharing. The wealth management business has evolved significantly into a holistic, advice-driven, high-touch, high-tech, client-focused experience. That's what's left. So now that we've talked about that, part of the way that you engage with clients, part of the way that you take value is through what I call proactive demand creating activities. Proactive demand creating activities. So what are they? Well, these are things that you as an advisor initiate to engage clients and prospects and partners and centers of influence. It's not proactive when somebody calls you or when somebody gives you a referral. This is you taking time to initiate outreach. These are related to recognizing unrecognized or unrealized needs. This means you're going to engage in a dialogue, you're going to practice inquiry to help uncover something that the client may not have seen. This is something that you have to block time out intentionally on your calendar. You pick the time, you block out time, maybe it's 2 hours, 3 days a week. It's your time for proactive demand creating activities, to reach out to people that you have intentionally identified, pre-planned what you're going to do and what you're going to say. It isn't a random thing. It isn't, oh, it's 2 o'clock. Yeah, maybe I'll do some of those proactive demand creating activities. No, this says that on Tuesday morning from 10 until noon, I'm going to spend time and I'm going to reach out to the 10 people that have come in that I've had conversations with over the last 30 days and haven't had any follow-up. And here's what I'm going to talk about. So again, these are things that are intentionally pre-planned, who you're going to talk to, what you're going to say, what you're going to focus on, and how you're going to be of value in that conversation. Let me share some of my favorite proactive demand creating activity examples. And there are more than this, but I'm going to just share these. So one of my very favorites is portfolio deconstruction. Taking a look into the portfolio, evaluating it, seeing what the client really has, understanding how the different pieces of their investment portfolio work together, and what the true level of risk is. Now, you may have some tools to help you with portfolio deconstruction, but this is a terrific way for people to understand what they really have. This is a mistake that self-directed investors often make. They think they're diversifying their risk and actually they're loading it up. So they decide they want to buy an S&P tracking fund, they want to buy something else, and before they know it, they've got 7 funds that all have Microsoft in them. So effectively, they've created a concentrated position, which means their risk has gone up. This is a way you can help them see what they've actually got and be of value in making recommendations and saying, if I were redesigning your portfolio, Here's what I would recommend. Trust or will document review. Now, this is a terrific one because it gives you an opportunity to have a conversation and then help someone understand what the plan says. Here's a really common thing. Somebody had an attorney develop their trust, and they thought that it said a set of certain things. And when you look at it, you find out that it's actually different than they thought. The value is not in rewriting the trust, that's not what we do, but in saying, I notice there's this inconsistency, and I wonder if you're aware of it. Here's something that you might talk to your attorney about. And same thing is true with wills or other wealth documents, but a terrific proactive demand creating review or activity. Asset titling review. Now, this may sound like a really silly one. Who cares about how assets are titled? Well, I'll tell you. Talk to an attorney or a trust company person at Members Trust Company that works in estate settlement and ask them what it looks like when asset titling is not correct when they're settling the estate. What it means is chaos. And I'll share an example. I met with a client or a prospect in Las Vegas a number of years ago. And this was an older gentleman. And I met with him with the advisor who had been, was getting the referral. This was from an attorney that he worked with. And we meet the fellow. He comes in, a really nice guy. And as we're kind of getting to know each other, he says, well, congratulations are in order. And I said, oh, well, tell me about that. And he said, well, I just got married over the weekend. And I said, oh, congratulations. Is it the first time? And he said, no, it's the 7th time. Okay, 7 times being married. So that means 6 prior marriages. The advisor, being very astute, said, I'm curious, in any of those prior marriages, did you own any real estate with your former spouses? So, yeah. Listen, I'm in the business and you can see one of our warehouses out the window. That's where we started our company. And then as we grew, we bought another warehouse down the street. And then we bought another one. And, you know, I think it was my second wife when we built the second place and so on and so forth. So the advisor is making notes. And the advisor said, do you have any life insurance? Oh, yeah, I've got lots of kids, lots of life insurance. I needed the insurance. The advisor is just processing. He said, did you ever change the beneficiaries on any of your policies when you went through divorces or marriages? Prospect just stopped for a minute. He said, I don't think I ever did. The point is, as the advisor kept asking questions about the titling of assets, what he found was through 7 marriages, there had been no update in titling. Titling was inaccurate. And if anything happened to this person, his family would go through chaos. That was tremendously valuable. It ended up that this prospect said, I thought we were going to talk about managing my money, but now I can see there are a lot of things that are more important to talk about. Can you help me with that? Very valuable demand creating activity. Retirement readiness review. With 10,000 baby boomers a day hitting 65 years old, this is a huge market for you to evaluate. Just finding out what people's plans are. How ready are they for retirement? Helping them see how closely aligned is their portfolio with their time horizon. And then the last one is what I call a full balance sheet review. And that's where you look at somebody's balance sheet and you get an idea of the composition of all the assets and how those assets work together. You're looking at the financial investments, the non-financial assets, real estate, farm and ranch land, oil, gas, and mineral rights, and trying to help them get an idea of how those different assets either work together or actually create greater risk. So if you see that somebody's got a lot of real estate and they're investing in REITs, that might be too much of a concentrated position. I share these examples of 5 proactive demand creating activities, but there are a lot more. So I think that you can find a lot of things to spend your proactive demand creating activity time doing and be meaningful to prospective clients, to expand and deepen relationships. So what does success look like for an extraordinary advisor? Here's what I want success to look like for you. First of all, I want you to use these ideas that we talked about today to earn relevance, to be a trusted advisor. So your clients say, she's the one, he's the one, they're the one. That's the person I reach out to when I have a question because I trust them. You earn and sustain relevance with your clients, with your partners, and you recognize that relevance, pertinence, meaningfulness, importance to your clients is always changing, and that it has to be earned, re-earned in order to be sustained. I want you to be referable. I want you to be the person that when your clients are talking to somebody else and they say, who do you do your business with? Your name is the first one that comes up. They think about you. And I want you to experience extraordinary business growth. And I believe beyond a shadow of a doubt, the topics that we talked about today, how you earn and sustain relevance, will help you achieve that extraordinary business growth. And successful advisors are those that continually earn and sustain relevance. They're attuned to their clients, and they recognize that as their lives change, their financial lives change. So with that, we kind of end up back where we started in this conversation. Successful firms are made up of successful advisors. And I want you to be an extraordinarily successful advisor. So thank you for joining the conversation, and I wish you all the best of success. Have a great day.